Hi guys, Olive here. Here today to talk to you about the best books that I have read in 2022 so far. This time of year always seems to sneak up on me. I feel like we start a new year and before I know it, it is halfway over. But this midway point in the year is always a fun time of year because we get a chance to look back at everything that's happened so far in the year. And here on BookTube, we look back at our reading. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the books that have impressed me the most thus far in 2022. So there are 8 books that I would like to talk to you about in today's video. 4 fiction books, 4 nonfiction books. Would I have preferred it to be an even 10 on this list? Sure, but I wanted to be honest and only talk about the ones that have impressed me the most. I didn't want to pad the list just to get to 10. And I'll also give my usual disclaimer that these are books that I have personally read in 2022. They weren't necessarily published in 2022. However, when I looked at my list, all but 2 books on this list were published this year. In case you don't know this about me, I'm a freelance book critic in addition to being a booktuber, so I read a lot of current year releases so that I can review them. So the vast majority of this list is composed of 2022 releases. But that's enough setup. Let's get talking about the books. I'll start with fiction. My 4th favorite novel of the year so far is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is a romance book that is being discussed all over the internet right now. It's about 2 publishing industry professionals with a little bit of a spiky history with one another who reconnect in a small town in North Carolina and begin to catch feelings as they start editing a manuscript together. This book is heartfelt, it is hilarious, and it is absolutely worth the hype. My 3rd favorite fiction book of the year so far is Trust by Hernan Diaz. This is a layered and cerebral novel that dissects the facts and fictions surrounding a fictional 1920s power couple within the financial world and a fictional novel contained within this novel that is supposedly based on their life together. This is a book that expects things of its reader, but that investment pays off big time as you start to venture deeper into this book and the truth starts to become apparent. This book blew me away. It's unlike anything I've ever read before, which is why I gave it a rave in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I will link that review for you in the description box below if you would like to hear more about this. My 2nd favorite novel of 2022 so far is one that I kind of wish I had been commissioned to review, although I probably don't have enough knowledge of the French Revolution to take something like that on. But the book is When We Lost Our Heads by Heather O'Neill. This is the story of 2 young girls in industrial-era Montreal who have a close but competitive friendship, and they are separated after tragedy strikes. They'll come back together, but only after a significant amount of time has passed and after things within the city have begun to change. There is an uprising of women brewing within the city that is definitely modeled after the French Revolution. There are a number of characters within this book, including those 2 main characters, who are based on important figures of that era. The best way I can describe Heather O'Neill's style is cotton candy grotesque. There are so many conflicting style elements within this book that it shouldn't work, but it does. I loved that aspect of The Lonely Hearts Hotel, her last book, and I loved it even more in this book. This is so weird and yet so perfect. But bless my editor at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette for asking me to review this next one. I was interested in this book, but I know myself and I would have put it off in order to read other things. And if I had done that, I would have robbed myself of my favorite fiction read of the year so far, The Candy House by Jennifer Egan. This is the sequel, or the companion novel, to Egan's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, A Visit from the Goon Squad, which I read for the first time, I think a couple of years after it was released, but I just recently reread it in order to prepare myself to read and review this one. And that experience of reading them back to back was incredible. Just seeing how seamlessly she extended the world of Goon Squad. It was like she always intended to write this sequel. I had such a good time reading both of them. I think this one is even better than Goon Squad. And I don't know how you do better than a Pulitzer Prize winning novel, but she did in this case. It was just so fun getting lost in this universe. If you would like to read my review of this one, I'll link it for you in the description box below. But now on to my top nonfiction reads of the year so far, beginning with my fourth favorite, The Fast Ride by Jack Gilden. This is a work of sports history that focuses on a racehorse that should have won the Triple Crown in 1979, but didn't for some reason. It was never entirely clear why Spectacular Bid, the favorite to win, ended up losing, but people widely blamed the very young jockey for the loss, even though there was so much more to this story, so much more going on behind the scenes. And that is the story that Jack Gilden aims to tell in this book, and he incorporates a lot of really interesting history about the city of Baltimore, Maryland. I wrote about this one for the Christian Science Monitor. I write about mainly sports books for them, and this one unexpectedly knocked my socks off. I knew it was going to be good, but I had no idea it was going to be this good. The research, it's impeccable, it's thorough, and then the writing is thrilling and yet sassy at the same time. It is just so exciting to read this book. It is a winner, plain and simple, and my review of it will be linked for you in the description box below. My third best nonfiction read of the year so far is a memoir called Lost and Found by Kathryn Schultz. In this book, the author talks about losing her father, but also finding love in the same small window of time in her life, and she breaks down the three words in this book's title, lost and found, what those words mean, what they represent, in order to describe what this time in her life was really like. This book is gorgeously written, and it is absolutely perfect for word nerds like me, hence why I loved it so much, and why I felt inspired to give this book its own review here on my channel, which I will link for you in the description box below and up in the cards if you'd like to give it a watch. But now finally, I get to talk about the two backlist books that I mentioned at the start of this video, the only two backlist books on this list, since my second favorite nonfiction read of the year so far is Unprotected by Billy Porter, the memoir of the famous singer and actor who grew up here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. In this book, Billy Porter discusses basically everything it took for him to get to where he is today, beginning with the different abuses he had to endure growing up as a young, black, gay man, finding refuge in the performing arts, and then fighting tooth and nail for his talent to be seen and respected. This book is raw, it is real, it is quintessentially Billy Porter, and I adored every minute of it. But my favorite nonfiction book of the year so far is Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed, a book that I am now deeply regretting that I waited so long to read. This is a collection of advice columns written by Cheryl Strayed as the character of Sugar that appeared on the literary website The Rumpus. People would write into Sugar, asking her questions about problems that they were having with their lives and relationships, and her responses, contained in this book along with the original questions, always begin with a life story of her own that always has something to do with the advice that she's about to give, followed by that advice itself. And each and every reply contained in this book is filled with empathy, love, and understanding. This is a book that I know I'm going to return to over and over again. There is so much wisdom in this book. There is so much beauty in this book. And that's why I bought my own copy of this book, brand new, which I very rarely do. And that is why this is my favorite nonfiction book of the year so far. So those are the 8 books that have impressed me the most so far in 2022. But I will be very interested to see, as I always am, how this list ends up comparing to my year-end fiction and nonfiction favorites lists. I always make those in 2 different videos at the end of the year. A lot of reading can happen between now and December, especially as I'm getting ready for big book season beginning in September, since I'm a book critic. But then also as a booktuber, I'm getting ready for Nonfiction November, getting ready to host Nonfiction November again. And the books that I read during Nonfiction November, normally one or two of those books end up on my year-end nonfiction favorites list. So I'm excited to see what happens. Very curious to see what other books stand out in 2022. If you have read or want to read any of the books I mentioned in this video, or if you have any general comments or questions you would like to share with me, I would love to hear from you in the comment section below. All the books that I mentioned in this video, as well as all the other links that I promised you, will be linked in the description box below. And at the bottom of that same description box, you'll see a bunch of different links to everywhere you can find me around the internet in case you would like to keep up with what I am reading and writing about right now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.